Hello everyone, SirMonkeySuit Zappy here, back again with Hunter Hunter. We are on episode 109, and in the last episode, it was definitely an interesting one because we had the king, Merum, who ended up caring for Komugi, which I kind of saw coming gradually over the course of the last few episodes and everything like that. Them two playing Gungi together. Every so often you would hear King Merum like monologue about how he's actually like enjoying himself, and you had other characters basically saying that like he's not like focusing on his duties that he was supposed to be doing beforehand about the whole, the meat plantation, everything that is coming up, like the post-election process stuff and all of that. Even Shire has started sort of picking up as a character as well in these last few episodes, and actually sort of testing the king's patience a bit. Of course, Shire wants the best for the king, and that's granted and everything like that, but the king is his own person, and he's at a point where he doesn't really care for anybody else's opinion, aside from Komugi's now, I'd imagine. And it's definitely an interesting development with the king regarding that. And as I said last episode, that it's kind of it's kind of like a bittersweet thing, because I like the idea of it, but it also puts Komugi in a position to be hurt, which I don't like. I don't like the idea of it. We ended up off the last episode with her being attacked by a bird. And I don't know how the fuck the bird got in there, but it was attacking Komugi, and then, Meruem was going to Komugi, like, to kill her. I mean, well, he says that, like, but he had it in his head, like, he was trying to talk himself into, being what he was before. The fact is that he just, this sort of caring nature that has sort of, like, crept upon him, like, whilst playing Komugi in these Gungi games, has, it's happened so gradually that he hasn't even noticed the change. But when he was talking to his royal guards and everything, it kind of like hit him like a ton of bricks. Like, it's kind of like sort of like the change that he's had whilst like playing these games and whatnot. And then he switched back for a brief moment. And was like, yeah, of course, like, you know what I mean? I don't need to win any other way, because I'm powerful. I can kill anyone I want, and I'll just win that way. So yeah, he was on his way to kill Komugi. He was trying to talk himself into it. Even if the bird wasn't attacking her, I struggle to believe that he would attack her anyway. I really don't think he would be able to do it or go through with it. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's that sort of fighting within himself with his natural instinct versus like this human empathy that he's gradually sort of getting. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. And yeah, I mean, really, the only other thing is Palm. We still haven't got any news on what happened to Palm, other than like, well, the last time we saw her, she was at the stairs where Nov was at, and yeah, there was that reddish sort of evil aura or something that was it wasn't touching her at that point. We just don't know what happened to her. So hopefully she's all right, but I'm sure we'll find out, at some point. But yeah, other than that, I don't think there's anything else to really talk about. So we're just going to get in episode 109 and see what we get. So without further ado, let's go. Okay, episode 109. It is the calm before the storm. Everything was being set up. So at the beginning of next episode, it all starts. I mean, well, theoretically, you could say that it kind of started in this episode. But I feel like we've been like, it's weird. This it's weird. This event that is about to take place, because I feel like everything has been leading up to this. Yet, really, it's only been within like half of this arc. I think that's just a case of the fact of this arc being like so long, like that it just feels like it's been ramping up to this point, because I feel like it's weird that you have an arc where the first half doesn't really have much to do with the second half at all, but it's all encompassed in one arc, so I guess that's probably the reason why it just feels like everything, even from the beginning of the arc when we first met Kite and the queen and whatever, that it's led up to this, to the start of this moment. So the beginning of the end. I don't know how long this is really going to be like stretched on for, or if we're really going to get the fights that we were kind of not really promised, I guess, more like we were told to expect from the narrator, who I'm kind of on a love-hate relationship with at the minute. But yeah, it's crazy to think that we are about to really start this shit now. And yeah, where do I start? Alright, I guess we'll just start at the beginning of the episode. So, we started off with Gon and Killua, and a Calgo as well. So, a Calgo's mission was to search for Palm in the basement. So, I'm happy about the fact that he is kind of away from the danger. Of course, he's within the palace, so that, you know, there's always an element of danger there. But I feel like because you have the likes of Gon, Killua, Knuckles, Shoot, Morel, all heading in there, I feel like the attention is going to be focused around them and not what is going on with the Calgo. He's going to the basement. There's no one down there that I feel like is any real threat to him. That being said, there are other ants, isn't there? I don't know where Cheeto is. So, yeah, we're going to have to wait and see exactly what happens with that. But yeah, I mean, searching for Palm in the basement, as far as I am aware, the only reason why I feel like she would be in there is if she also chickened out, kind of like what Nov did. You know, chickened out sounds like a harsh term. But, you know, I don't know of any other term I can use, really. You know, within coming face to face with the aura, you know, they decide to sort of bow out and sort of get away. So I wonder if she is, if she did cower and headed back down to the basement for, you know, for safety reasons or whatever. I didn't really take her for that kind of character. Now, I know that it's supposed to be like, the idea of the aura is supposed to be that so much evil intent behind it that it doesn't matter how sort of put together you are or seem on the surface, like it can get to you, you know. And with Nov being the, you know, the calm, cool and collected one, that was, you know, that was the example there. I guess I kind of just had Palm pegged as one that wouldn't be as affected as much, because she also gave off like that kind of aura as well, even though it was in more like of a comedic aspect, you know. And also the fact is that she's more devoted to doing things for Nov than I think that Nov is for doing things for, you know, I don't know, I guess the greater good of the world. And that might sound like a bit of a, you know, like shots towards Nov, but but that's not what I mean. I just feel like Palm is like, her whole character is based around devotion, you know. So I feel like hers is like, you know. So I feel like if anybody was able to go through with the mission, even to the detriment to themselves, it would be Palm. And because of that, I feel like the opposite is possibly. The opposite is possibly fallible, meaning that, like, I feel like Nov is going to do something that could be a detriment to the mission for the sake of Palm. Because I said that like a couple episodes ago when he had gotten out of the palace and he was looking towards the palace and he was like worried about Palm at that point, right? And I was wondering if there was ever going to be a case where he had like lost it to a point, but for whatever reason he tried to get in there to get her out, something like that, you know. I feel like, and I'm kind of thinking that is more than likely going to happen. I'm more on board with that theory now because of what happened this episode. When Gon and Killua and all that came into the, you know, to the room, they Gon asked if we heard anything about Palm, and then you got like a slight scene of Nov, like, you know, like sort of like bowing his head behind these you know, his glasses and whatever. And generally, one thing that I have noticed is that when a show chooses purposefully to include something so little, if it's a show where the writing is sort of like on point, like the show usually is, then I'm normally inclined to take that as there's something more there than just the fact that, you know, it's just showing Nov's concern for Palm. Now, that being said, they are the closest, you know, like, Nova's the closest with Palm, so I guess it could just be that, but I don't know. Because also in this episode, Morel was, you know, talking to him, basically saying, like, make sure you keep out of there. And then Nov went on this, like, well, he didn't really go on a tangent. He just basically specified that, like, yeah, you know, I'm the most scared one in this room. Trust me, I won't do anything, you know, like, to get myself killed or anything like that, you know, that I shouldn't do. And the basically, because he chose to come out and say that, and he was behind his glasses the whole time, and when anime have like that glasses where like the lenses are completely lit up so you can't see their eyes past it, and then at the end of it you know, pans down, the lights kind of fade and you see that his eyes are kind of glazed over. It makes me kind of think that he is stressed to a point. I mean, and he's stressed himself to the point of his hair turning white, like that kind of trauma that you know, that actually can't happen. Bless him. I feel like he may have stressed out to the point and focused on it so much to the point where the care is gone. Like, you know, like when you're like, if there's ever been a point where you have been traumatized to a degree to where you're just like, I don't care anymore. I fear that might be where Nov is at right now, and therefore I feel like he may intervene himself more than he should, which would end up being a detriment to the actual mission, but in turn, like, to go in and save Palm, maybe at the cost of his own life, or something like that, something along those lines. But we'll have to see. But it's definitely interesting. I mean, no, it looks like it's not even just the white hair. I'm sure the character in the face is designed like, it looks like he has, like, you know, like bags under his eyes, kind of like what I do. You know, but you know, that's just me. You know, and like he's got like these fucking like crease lines here and stuff, and it looks like he's aged quite a bit. So it's not even just the hair that's changed colour, but yeah, it's really, really getting to him. So yeah, next we had Killua that he was talking about when he was just with Gon and Akalgo, and he was talking about how they were investigating the Royal Guard and the King's sort of movements over these, you know, past weeks or however many. You know, and talking about how with his job beforehand being an assassin, that typically what always used to happen was on the day that, you know, shit was supposed to go down, you're supposed to, you know, go everything, follow the plan and everything like that, it all went out the window because shit would just change. Shit would change on you, and like either the target would like do something completely out of the ordinary and he wouldn't do his typical day-to-day routine or whatever. Something would always change, so you always need to think of things on the fly. Of course, we were always going to be like, it was never going to go according to plan anyway, this mission. It absolutely is not. It's not going to, like, you're not just ticking off the boxes like it's good. Yeah, it's all going fine. Of course, you know, it's going to get to a point where something happens within the mission, within this event, that will cause shit to go awry, and therefore all of the characters have to think on the fly. Nice rhymes. I should be an MC. But no, I think and that's the reason, like, another reason why I think Nov will sort of intervene, and that will cause that chain reaction to happen. But we'll have to wait and see what that is. This is the thing, though, like, with Killua talking about that, how things always change on the day. Another thing is obviously the Komugi situation. That's the one thing that they don't have access to. Of course, that was Palm's, like, the whole point of Palm being there was to get that information, so that, you know, even though they've got a sort of a thought process on how the Royal Guards are kind of set up, you know, but they don't have eyes on them, so they don't know what they're doing at all times. and that was what Palm was there for, so that she could, tell them exactly what the hell was going on, basically in real time, so that they could, their plan could work as perfectly as it possibly could. But with Palm missing, and we don't know what the hell has happened to her, that isn't obviously the case. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that now with the whole Komugi situation, the king, wanting to protect Komugi, everything changes now. The fact is that because the king had that talk with Neferpito this episode, and talking about how she wants, the king wants Neferpito to also keep an eye on Komugi and make sure nothing happens to her, means that there can be a point within this mission when Neferpito is not aware of what's happening with the king. So what could potentially happen is that the king could basically have his own downfall because of him caring for others, which is an interesting sort of concept. I think the idea that the king would have been fine if he had just stuck to what he kind of knew, but the moment that he starts caring for someone, it becomes a weakness. So it's going to be interesting to see how all of that plays out. And also the Komugi situation as well, in regards to Knuckle as well. I like that little sort of scene where they were all sort of thinking about, what was about to happen, from their own sort of point of view and stuff. And Knuckles obviously was the fact that he was looking around at the other Chimera ants and basically saying that, like, they've got good hearts. It doesn't matter, like, if you're a human, if you're a Chimera ant, if you're whatever, everyone is capable of having a good heart. And he said that he hopes that the king does as well, which is interesting. It's especially interesting knowing exactly what this mission is and what the king has ordered, like, the royal guards and everything to do, like the reason why they need to take the king out and whatnot. And the fact is that Knuckles said, "I hope the king has a good heart," means that there is a possibility to sort of hesitate, and that's the thing, is if the whole king having a good heart was brought up, it's obviously, I mean, we know as the audience, having the view that we have, the characters obviously don't know what's going on within there. They don't even know Komugi's in there. It's clear that is obviously a connect with the whole, the king caring for Komugi, because that was the only, like, that is the good heart within him that we can see. So if that ever comes to a head, we'll have to wait and see on that. I just don't know if Knuckle is the one to take down the king. Like, I don't know if there's ever going to be a case where they really come in contact. So Knuckle probably will not have that kind of, you'll not be able to look in on that whole thing. But I don't know. We'll see. We went back to Colt, which I'm surprised as well, because I like, if you recall back when the Queen had died, I was thinking that was it for Colt. Like, his sort of arc had been and like, it started and ended, and he was free to go along and protect again with that little baby, the little fetus thing, which is growing up. I was surprised. And throughout the episode after that had happened, while trying to remain focused on the episode, I was trying to think, like, the reason why I thought that it wasn't going to grow up. And I think it was due to the fact that it wasn't it basically had, because the King Meruem had come out beforehand, before he was fully, he was supposed to come out, that the leftover was the fetus, and because of that, I thought that the baby and fetus itself wouldn't have the nutrients or anything like that to keep growing. But I guess if it's eating while it's alive, then I suppose that would be the reason why it could keep growing. But yeah, it's a surprise. That's crazy, and it's going to be interesting to see if that baby grows up. I mean, here's the thing: like, we're on episode 109. Which means what? We've got 42 episodes left? 41? I don't know if the baby's gonna, unless we have like a flash forward after this arc, maybe. I don't know, but you know, like it would be interesting to see how that baby does grow up. I mean, under Cold, I would imagine that, you know, the baby would grow up with some, like, you know, some morality, and not just, you know, the whole Chimera and sort of ideology when you come out and you just, you know, I feel like she would have a good upbringing. I assume that it's a she. I think it is. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we just, you know, if we keep sort of caught up with what's going on there. But I don't know. But yeah, it was nice to see that anyway. Fucking, of course, Shia figured out the bloody the translocation thing. Like, sometimes I'm just like, sometimes with anime, I just sit back and I'm like, like, because there comes a point in a lot of anime where, you know, the opponent figures out something based on almost nothing, and it's just like how are you coming up with this? Like, unless like, you know, they have some, like, access to some translocation ability that's able to take them somewhere else. It's like, yeah, that's perfectly what Nov's ability is, you know? Like, how the fuck is he coming up with that? You know, like, I mean, I like the writing in the show, but, like, sometimes when I see, like, characters just come up with shit on the fly, and I'm just like, yeah, of course he figured that out, you know? But I mean, that's the thing, because I wouldn't normally berate the writing on that regard, but because in the same episode beforehand we had the whole thing where they figured out the other fucking, I can't even remember it now. It's completely gone. My brain evacuated. What were they talking about? They were talking about a bloody plan, and they were like, the reasoning. Oh yeah, right. It was the king, right, injuring himself, and they were trying to sort of narrow down why Neferpito stopped using N and went off, because you know, they'd figured out that it was Shia at that point that was that Nov come into contact with, right, and they narrowed that down because of logic, and it made sense. Like, the only reasonable explanation was that he injured himself. So that one was, you know, that was written, like, well, and made sense, whereas Shia was just like out of, you know, he basically grabbed it out of his ass. So yeah, it was good. But yeah, so yeah, the march had begun, and all the royal guards as well falling for the bluff, which is, you know, I mean, I suppose in a lot of ways I did kind of expect it, because you've got to have things kind of going right so that the protagonists and everything sort of have that, like, yes, like, everything's going right, and then you take it away from them, right? And then it's sort of, you know, that's the whole thing with, like, these kind of, like, you know, shonen shows and everything like that, that you take them away at the, you know, at sort of like the pinnacle of when they think things are going right, and then you swing it in momentum to the other side, so then sort of like the opposition has the upper hand and whatever, and then, you know, and then you swing it back and forth and whatever, so you don't know, like, what's going to happen at any point, and you're surprised when shit goes right or shit goes wrong. So yeah, I did see that coming. Shoot made a good point that you can't use cell phones either, or mobile phones in the UK. You know, we don't really use cell phones over here, but yeah, so they can't use that either because the ants can actually pick up on them. I guess that sort of makes sense, like the sort of like antennae and whatever, and signals. They can tell when those are going off. But that's sort of just an interesting point to know, because I don't think that's ever been brought up before. And whether it's just, you see, that's the thing, is like, I don't know if, like, are ants in the real world able to pick up on those signals? You know, like on those sort of waves? Because otherwise it could just be like a sort of it could just be like being used as a way to stop them from having contact with each other across, you know, across distances. I don't know. It's an interesting little tidbit though. What else? Shia has a hypnosis ability as well, so of course he does. When he was using it, I had images in my mind of Pokemon and like Venomoth or something. You know what I mean? Or Butterfree using like like sleep powder or something like that. But it's pretty much similar. So yeah, it's just because during the sort of selection process and everything like that, it means that like when shit starts hitting the fan, they don't run. Now, while that is an advantage obviously to the Royal Guards and everything like that, little do they know it's actually an advantage as well to like our group. As Morel was saying, it's great because now the one thing that they were sort of worried about going in is the fact that once shit does hit the fan, that they won't be trampling over each other, meaning that they don't have obstacles to overcome and everything like that. They're sort of like free to just reign. So yeah, it's good. And yeah, the last thing I've got as well is Morel and Shia. Really, they've kind of set that up as a sort of 1v1. Because originally it was supposed to be Morel and Nova against Shia, right? And that was like sort of their Royal Guard. Of course, Morel was talking about it, how like I need to focus on getting the one that I'm assigned to away from the king. It was Shia, right? Which means it's going to be a 1-on-1 because Nov is not in any fit state. So what was originally supposed to be a 2-on-1 is now a 1-on-1. It's it's kind of like a thing of like, it just, as a character, it just allows me to have a hell of a lot more respect for him, because he is like sort of he has to deal with it and put on a sort of brave face like he usually does, but that's the thing, is like Morel we've had a lot of in these episodes, leading up to this, where we've had him against Cheetah, we've had him against Leol, and now having him against Shia as well. So yeah, got a lot of respect for him as a character right now, so that's really cool to see. And yeah, and then that's all I've really got for episode 109. So that was a really cool episode to sort of kick off this the mission, and I'm excited to see exactly what happens next. So yeah, that is all I've got. So thank you everyone for watching. In the description below, I have links to certain things. One of them is the Discord, so you can get yourself over there if you want to. And I also have a Patreon page as well. So if you do want to support me on Patreon, that'd be very much appreciated. There is a bunch of different tiers and rewards depending on how much you want to support me with. So there's the early access tier, $5 a month, gives you access to shows a week early, and you get 4 episodes of Hunter x Hunter every week. That's 2 on Monday and 2 on Friday, as opposed to the general public that only get access to 2 episodes a week. So by the time this episode comes out on YouTube for the general public, you can go over, become an early access tier patron, and have access to the rest of the show and reactions, because I'll be finished it by that point. And if you can binge watch the entire show within a month, it's only going to cost you $5, so it's a pretty good deal. There's also full length there as well, so for $10 a month, you don't really need that for this show because there's full length anyway, but for other shows you will need that. And then there are other tiers where you can pay to have certain shows reacted to. So if you want me to react to a show, then go have a look at those tiers and see what they offer. But that's all I've got, so thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.